Welcome to this month's top 3 air chat discussions with Naval Ravikant.
AI doomerism is a kind of a Pascal scam. And for those of you who haven't read Nick Szabo's amazing article on this on his unenumerated blog, I recommend you do so, but I'll explain here what a Pascal scam is. Pascal's wager was basically that if God exists and you don't believe in him, you're going to rot in hell forever. And if you do believe in him, you'll go to heaven. It doesn't cost you much to believe in him, so you might as well believe in him. So it takes an unknown thing with probably low or unknown probability, and it multiplies it by an infinite outcome. And since human brains are bad at doing infinite mathematics, we have no choice but to go along with this belief, and therefore it's a scam. Apply this to all end of the world predictions, whether it's through climate change or whether it's through nuclear war or whether it's through Hitler taking over, etc., etc. Doesn't mean these aren't real fears. Doesn't mean they can't or won't happen. Doesn't mean they don't have different probabilities. For example, we've definitely faced nuclear annihilation at times, but it does mean that because the human brain is so bad at doing infinite mathematics, when you make something existential, you throw all reasoning out the window. Now, the number of Pascal scams is potentially infinite. So how do you create a mimetic Pascal scam that has a high chance of succeeding? Well, first you show some existence proof. It could be warming in the atmosphere, it could be nuclear testing, or it could be the creation of large language models and called AI, and the founders of those companies talking about how they're going to create AGI. How do you make the scam even bigger? How do you make it feel more real? Well, you accelerate the timeline. Climate change will end the world within 10 years. Nuclear war, when it happens, will happen right away and very quickly. AGI will hit the singularity. So AGI doomerism works because it is an almost perfectly executed Pascal scam. Start by saying no to everything. I say no to everything. I don't have a calendar. So when people say, how about such and such time? I'm like, well, I would have to either set an alarm for it or I would have to remember it. So that way, unless I really, really badly want to do it, I just can't even do it. So the maximum number of meetings I can have per day is 1 because that's all I can remember or all I'm going to set an alarm for. Second, I push everything asynchronous and unscheduled. My mottos are better bored than busy, and the overscheduled life isn't worth living. The world is full of opportunity. You just have to be available, time, mental space to grab it. And when you grab it, you're going to be sorry you grabbed it because now there's 1,000 other things you can't grab. So you only want to grab the ones that really, really, really appeal to you. So it has to bring you out of retirement, essentially. But you do need something to focus on because if you don't, what are you going to do all day? You'll just drink yourself to death or do stupid things. It does mean that you have to unschedule your entire life around you. I'd see many parents whose children's lives are scheduled and then they try to live an unscheduled life. It doesn't work. If your children have school times, nap times, play times, times when they have to eat, times when they have to go to bed, then your own life will be scheduled as well. Nothing wrong with that. Most of us don't have the luxury of being unscheduled, but if you do, your entire life around you has to be scheduled. It also means every single event is voluntary. You never commit to showing up and speaking at an event. You never commit to a birthday party. You never commit to a wedding. You never commit to a bar mitzvah. It means you never let your wife commit you to anything. You never commit her to anything. If somebody says, is he available for X? She doesn't even ask on their behalf. If somebody asks me, is she available for X? I don't even ask her on their behalf. So completely free and unscheduled. It's about as hard as it sounds, but it's about 10 times more rewarding than it sounds. So it means you have to break the heart of every person who expects you to be in a specific place at a specific time. That's their expectation. It's their problem, not yours. You have to get comfortable ghosting people who become too familiar. They text you too much. They air chat you too much. They email you too much. Just stop responding. The monkey on their back that they're trying to put on yours is not your problem. You just have to be comfortable walking away with no remorse. When you look back on your life in that final moment, you will wish that you'd spent more time on the timeless and less time on the temporary. And there are very, very few timeless things.
This is really a channel for people to ask just open questions about their dining experience out at professional bars and restaurants. In particular, if you want to know sort of what's behind the service side.
Keith, this thread of yours is awesome. I would love if you would just explain your concepts here of motion, language, and vision. Let's start with
The things you can do to control the atmosphere of the room, and you do. There are tricks about music, about lights, about television, about volume levels, all that stuff. But essentially, the physical endpoints of the motion are always the same because it's a sport that requires a lot of dexterity, and you just can't mess up. Well, you can, but you need to be slick in the busy moments. You don't have like one way of making a cosmopolitan when you're slow, and another way when you're busy. They're the same exact way, but the in-between zones, like the motions are bigger when it's slow. They're maybe a little bit like broader and up high. But I could work a room with like 10 or 12 people in it and make it feel like a busy bar, and then when there are 100 people in there, I would just slow down and do my like minimum body motions and like stay crisp, stay moving. But when it was slow, people felt like I was doing them a favor by like coming over and make a big deal out of them. And then it was busy, I slowed down my body language because I didn't want people to stop ordering like the extra things, like the martini, the shots, like going the extra distance. And so there's a way you control your physical motions in and of. There's the execution side of it, but it absolutely sets the tone for a room. And you and I can be in a room together, and I can work my way around the room in a way that changes the emotional atmosphere in that room. The motion part, and basically when they walk in, you obviously know what you're doing, and it sets the pace of the room so that people spend the most amount of money possible, because that is what we're doing. The language part of it, there's a lot of questions that come up over and over and over again with guests, but no one ever wants to feel like they're getting a canned response or rushed. So over time, you just naturally arrive at and then practice and hone in the types of language that allow you to sell or control a customer interaction or handle an issue with an order in a way that makes sense for the guest you're dealing with always, and the atmosphere and sort of the laundry list of things you have to do. And the way you talk is very, very, very important. As vision, just the whole ball game is time management. You have to be seeing the entire field. And remember, the art of waiting table or working a bar, it's not so much that as many people as possible get like 97% service, it's that no one gets below 85% service. Now, you're trying, it's almost like Tapper or like those clown games at the beach. You're trying to just continue like spray water in each clown's mouth so that none of them fall that far behind. Now, in terms of vision, like what you need to be seeing is like when someone comes in, that initial greet, that initial contact, that is hugely, hugely, hugely important. So you need your eyes up for that. You need to know when people need another drink, because you don't ask when people need a drink when their glass is empty. You ask when it's like like half full or a third empty, right? You have to keep your bar clean, because otherwise all sorts of other problems happen. Then you got to stop and clean that up. You have to, back in the day, you had to like empty ashtrays, light people's cigarettes, and you have to keep an eye on women and fist fights. And if someone's at the door, and if someone's messing with the jukebox, if someone's reaching over the bar to pour themselves a draft beer, if someone is putting someone in something's drink, like you are just constantly scouring. But you're doing all this stuff and you work out these angles. And so like most bartenders, the reason the register faces the opposite way is so they can't see the money, but it actually gives you the reason there's reflective services behind most bars is actually so the bartender can take stock of where they're going to go next, or the flow of the room or anything that's happening while they have their hands in the register. I know all the steps. I know where I am. I know where my station is. I am the golden god of bartending. When it's time to go, it's just nothing but me and drinks. And I know, when I pour a Long Island iced tea, I know how to pull out 4 bottles in one shot. I one hand on the glass, one hand on the ice scoop, fill the glass with ice, put it in front of you, put those things down, 2 bottles in each hand, tequila, vodka, gin, and rum, and then put all those back down. And that's a slick move, by the way. And then one hand grabs the gun, the other hand grabs the triple sec, and you do the sour mix top, and then you pick it up. Again, both hands go down. Now you put the mixing cup on it. You do a shake and a spin shake if you want, which I could do. And now you crack the glass off the top, and then again, with one motion, that dirty mixing cup goes into the sink where it'll get released, where it'll get rinsed. And then one hand on the way up will pick up the gun and splash a little bit of Coke on it, and the other hand will pick up a lemon to garnish the drink, and then in goes the straw, and that's it. That's a Long Island iced tea. And I imagine I could do that in 17 seconds or so on a busy night.
That's really interesting. I've always thought of music as something that synchronizes people's heartbeats and biorhythms within a room. So when you walk into a room, based on the beat of the music that's playing, it sets the tones for everybody in the room. Should they be up? Should they be down? Should they be moving? Should they be standing still? And so on. And the point I think you're making is that the bartender does that at the bar. Just that's the center of attention. That's the focal point of activity. So whatever mood and whatever motion, whatever speed and tempo and intensity that person sets will be set for everybody.
Early on, we would keep the music a little bit quieter. It gets louder as the night goes on. Early on, the lights are a little bit higher. They get darker as the lights go on, as the night goes on. And then the music sort of, for instance, you're not having Rum Shaker play at 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night when people are eating and whatnot. At the same time, you're also cultivating a more upbeat form of music. Some jerk always puts on, not some jerk, but someone puts on Celine Dion at midnight. And it's terrible. And I would, we have control over that sort of stuff. It skips. Oops. Oh, it ate your money? I'm so sorry. Here's $1. And yeah, you just, so it's and again, you're kind of training the crowd, right? And the way you move and control the atmosphere and pace. And the other thing is, when the night's getting a little bit out of control, you'll actually turn the volume down a little bit, the lights up a little bit. And it's just it's literally like a knob control on the energy of the crowd.
I will say the clown game is a great analogy. And that's a really interesting point about reflective surfaces in bars. I had not considered that before, but that is a great little hack.
If you really want to get a bartender's attention, all you do is look at them. I'm telling you, there's something about the human animal that even if people just know when someone's looking at them. It's pretty amazing. So, remember, over time, you're training in a good way. You're training the crowd to understand how to order, understand how they should behave. And then you build up this social momentum where, the bars I worked at, and I kind of rinsed and repeated this a few times. It's very, very doable. But essentially, you find, the right kind of person that you're trying to build. You definitely want a selection of people coming into your bar. It shouldn't just be one type of person. But you're kind of just looking for nice people that don't get in trouble and treat each other well. And as you find opportunities to introduce people to each other, you'll even make, I'll accidentally walk over to someone, whatever, 2 Bud Lights and a Red Bull and vodka. That wasn't the kind of bar, or I did that kind of bar early on, and I'll put it down oh, I'm sorry, this isn't yours. This is actually for those girls over there. Hang on, I'll be right back. And it turns into a chuckle, and you're just kind of stitching away. Next thing you know, the whole thing's just rolling, and they're all maintaining their own atmosphere. And the best thing is, you train a bar on good people. Someone comes in, they act like a jerk. You can see the crowd sort of separate away from them. And now that person knows it's not that kind of place. It's not for you, dude.
That's a great little hack. It makes sense. Humans are automatically hardwired to pay attention to someone who's staring at them long enough. So this should work for bartenders and for servers.